Hello my friends, John LaRuffa here with another straight up solo. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at One Deck Galaxy. We're going to see how this plays from a solo perspective, and I'll tell you my feelings on it. And then that will hopefully help you make an informed decision if it is something that you want to pursue or something you want to sail on by. All right, let's go take a look. Okay folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And if you have, I really do appreciate that support. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. So, what we're going to do is, I've just played the first turn to kind of get things going, just so that it's a full turn that you can see here. And the game happens in 4 stages, okay? The first stage is the adversary stage, and this will vary depending on what the adversary is. In this case, you're always going to discard a card, and then you're going to do something differently. So I should actually have one down here already. So we've discarded the first one off the top, and then he is going to put, he or Neeble Woobers or whatever they are, I don't know. This alien is going to put one up here, okay? And actually he doesn't put it up there because it's the second one. So what ends up happening in this game is if you ever have to increase 1 to 2, you just roll it like that, okay? And as this deck gets exhausted, there are events down here which drive to the end of the game. And that is a timer that you're working against. So it is kind of important to see what ones exhaust, what ones flip, where they go, etc. So that's the adversary phase. You always discard 1 card, like I just did, and then you put this over here. And I would say that the first time you're going through this game, you are going to have to just step through this rule book. You know, it's kind of annoying that there's no better player aid in this game. I wish there was. It just doesn't seem like it's completely, completely obvious as far as what is going on. And I wish it was a little better. That's all. And that's my one gripe, is that this game could flow a lot easier if they'd had a better player aid someplace. I don't even think it has anything in here. Just has, and people have complained about the rule book, and rightly so. This rule book is barely, it works, but it is barely passable with regards to easy to look up and follow. And I don't know if it's because it's small, or if it's because it just doesn't flow all that well, or because without a player aid, it makes it difficult. I might even create my own little player aid, because once you know what you're doing, it really isn't that bad. But there's a stepwise process, and just a simple thing would have helped. Okay. Now they did do a good job explaining the adversary symbols, where this quick reference guide is helpful. Okay, I will say this, and they flushed out the specifics of how these adversaries worked quite well in this adversary quick guide. So I think they did a great job here. They just needed to do a little bit more on the other side. Okay, so we've done the adversary phase. Now Discover. Discover is usually pretty simple. If you don't have 4 cards out here, you draw another one, okay? You always have 4 cards out here, and these are the cards that you can work with. They may be places to explore and colonize. They may be situations you have to deal with before they escalate, and whatever happens here. Kind of like the One Deck Dungeon, where these are the things you're working against. Unlike One Deck Dungeon, though, you can at any time go and start making progress against your adversary. And you could do so with either side of the card. As long as there's no dice or anything on the card, you can flip it over. Which is very helpful, because that will give you some flexibility. And also, the sooner you do some of those things, the better. And in this case, the sooner you start to make progress against him, the less he's going to gather from the dice side of things. So if you can kind of unlock and hurry up at least one of these levels in the beginning, that's going to be helpful. Okay, so we've done that. Now we do the action phase. In the action phase, we basically gather up all of our dice, and we roll them, and then we assign them. But we don't execute anything. We only assign them. So here I'm going to have 3 yellow dice because of what I've got in my situation. I don't have any colonies yet. I have 5 purple or pink, and then I have 2 blue. And then I also get 2 stars to use, okay? And I also have this crystals. I start with a crystal. These resources may come into play depending on the types of things that you have in this game as unlocked techs. But they don't do anything right now while they're just standalone. Okay, so we give these a roll. And here's our roll. Now, one thing this game does, and that was a great roll, by the way. I don't think I've ever had one as fruitful as that. One thing this game does better than One Deck Dungeon is it gives you an easy and simple opportunity to use bad dice rolls in your research lab and for generating ships. And I really appreciate that because it's not all about just rolling the highest numbers possible. Of course, the higher the number, the easier it will be to unlock things. There's no doubt about it. So let's go ahead and see what I'm going to be doing. Now, in order to complete these cards, you've got to generate this specific number, in this case, 8 progress, 6 progress, 7 progress, or here, you don't generate it. You just have to satisfy this entire condition at once, and then you get the card. It's a little different. This thing progresses on its own. And you can do this over multiple turns, and once you've done it, then you claim the card, and then you can get, the tech, or you can colonize the place and it gives you those things. Or you can even claim it for its science value. However, usually when you want to claim something for the science value, you're best to send probes, or I should say study it with dice. And that usually makes it better, give or take. Now I'll explain what that does in a second, but let's go ahead and see what I've got. I have all these dice to work with. I have this specific tech and this tech right here. So this tech says I can increase a die by my level, which is level 1, then reroll any or all of the dice of that color. So if I had some really bad rolls, that could be good. In this case, I have good ones, so I don't have to worry about that. Here it says I can use a star to spend a spaceship, which I have 5, to launch a probe. And that might be good because if I launch a probe, I could, for instance, get rid of something like this earlier than I normally would before this thing goes off. So that can be very helpful, okay? But as it stands, the first thing I want to do is work on this card. So almost every one of these cards, I think maybe everyone, has some kind of restriction on there that makes it more difficult than it seems at first to unlock. So for instance, it says I must fill the top row first before I can do the bottom row. So that means I have to spend 3 ships. So I have 5 ships. I'm going to spend 3 by discarding these 2 over here to the discard pile. And I should have put an extra one in there. I was talking about it earlier. I should put 1 in there for turn 1, 1 in there for turn 2. Okay. Now, with that in mind, and this is a little fiddly and frustrating, but it's probably easier if you don't sleeve your cards, to be honest. Okay. I have successfully accomplished that condition. So what I could do is I could take this progress token and I can put it down here. Now notice I don't have any other progress tokens to use for a condition like that. And that's why it's important, one of the reasons it's important to upgrade your star base, which I may or may not do. I need 8 science to upgrade it. I've got 7, so I'm a little shy of it right now. All right. So, and that's one of the things it doesn't do a great job of explaining in this game as far as when you can upgrade and how it works. And the rule book is really thin on that. Basically, you can upgrade your star base when you meet the science condition. And I think it can be done. It is, in fact, I know it can be done in the results section, but it's just not very clear on that because it talks about, that's the adversary stuff, but yeah, so blah, 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 after resolve, you can, yeah, see, after resolving all the dice, you can upgrade the star base by spending it. So I guess it does say it there, but it's not very clear to jump right out at you. So anyway, okay, we have done a little bit of something there. Now I need to place, and that will give me 1 unlocked progress when we go through the resolution. Now I need a 3 blue. Well, I have a 5 and a 6, which is nice, which is almost too bad that I got to spend it there. So what I'm going to do instead, I'll show you. So first of all, I need a 3 red. So I can put this 3 red right there. Now, instead of using these blues for this, I actually want to use the blues over here. And since this one has a restriction of no identical value, a 5 and a 6 is perfect. And that'll help me continue to work on this. But I don't have any blues left. So what I can do is I can discard this 3 and 4 for a 3 black, because you can discard 2 of any dice you want for the lower number being a black, and a black is a wild die, and there we go. I can also get a black if I want it and roll it by spending 3 science, and sometimes that's good to do. Okay, so what else do I have? So I've made some progress there, that's good. Here, this is all dice here must be of the same value. So unfortunately, I've got a situation where I don't have all the same value of these things. But I guess I can do this. I can go, all dice here must be the same value. So I can do at least these two 5s, and that'll give me 2 progress. I can't do, and again, you can meet or exceed these numbers. So if I had more, I could increase, but I don't have enough to get where I really want to go because I'm way shy of that over here. So now what would I do with these extras? Well, I could decide to put them in here to probe and to help me deal with some other types of issues I've got, like this one. And I think that's what I'm going to do because I don't feel like having this trigger the escalate. And so I'm going to put them up there to use when I resolve. So now I'm out of things to do here. I have some actions. I could spend some ships to launch a probe now, but I don't think that's going to be what I want to do. And I didn't decide to use this. Now, there are other things. There's conditions when you play that if you meet these milestones, you can upgrade your level. So if I have 4 activated techs, I have to actually have the techs. I only have 1 now, but if I've activated 4 of them, then I'm able to slide this over and go to level 2. If I have 5, then I can slide this over and go to level 3. And you can do this in any order, by the way. It doesn't make that really clear, but you can have a class 4 star base, so I can put one over there and spend 7 stars. So I need to get more stars, but if I spent 7, I could do that. It also says you can use a blue as a star, or you could use 2 stars as a blue. So that gives you some more flexibility, like I said before, in that limitation. All right, all that being said, I'm now ready to move to the results phase. So the first thing we do with the results is that we look at these cards first. Then we do this card, the escalating cards. Then we do the star base, okay? And then we do whatever is resolved here. All right, so the first thing is this. Well, I've made progress. I've made 2 progress, as it were, because it shows 2 there. So I can put 2 under here. Now I have 4. I'm getting closer to the 7 that I need to get this. I have done 1, 2, 3 on this. So here we've got 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to put it like, actually it'll be 1, 2, and 3. It doesn't really matter. Okay. And then here I've gotten 2. So you can see as you move through and make progress, you're going to be spending this deck, right? It's going to go through quickly on you, and there we go. And that may or may not be a good thing. Usually it's not. All right, now here I wasn't able to accomplish this. So this thing is going to gain another progress, and if it gets 3 progress on it, it's going to escalate, which triggers the escalation, which is how he gathers dice. And you're actually going to see that right now, or pretty soon. So now I have these 3 here. Now, I could have taken any 2 of these and put them there and gotten 1 ship, but I did want to get the 3 probes, because what's going to happen is it says that I can spend these to study a location with a discount of 1 per. So I need at least 2 dice to study the location here. And if I do that, then what will happen is that I will be able to avoid the problems here and gain this as a science value. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take these dice and I'm going to study this one. So I'm going to spend 2 of these to, actually it just needs 1. Well, I don't want to suffer the escalate, so I'm going to spend the 1 because 2. So 2 probes give me that ability there, plus I have 2 more here. That meets the 4, so I can basically take this and avoid the consequences and put it down here, which will allow me then to upgrade my star base, which I will do right away. Now this die is going to get wasted. I can't think of a good thing to use it for. But now I can discard 8 of these science, and you never get change. So I can discard 8 of these to upgrade my star base. And what does that do? So notice here, the situation. The upgraded star base makes it a little bit easier for me to gain stuff. And I have 2 things now, but now I need 10 to upgrade it again. You can upgrade it all the way to a level 4. And as you can see here, here is the level 3. So you got even more ways to gather. And then level 4, there we go. Makes it cheaper. All right, so with all of that in mind, I am done resolving here. Now, we look here and see he's got 2 of these progress tokens. He doesn't have 3. If he had 3, he would actually get a colony and do more to gather dice. But in this case, he doesn't. He's just going to escalate. Now, when he escalates, he's going to gather these 3 dice, or whatever he has over here. He's going to roll them, and he's going to keep any of them that are higher than the value that's shown here, 3. Unfortunately, it means he's going to keep these. Now, anytime during the game, I can buy these back from him twice per turn during the action phase. But in order to do that, I got to spend 6 science for all the yellow dice. I have to spend 4 spaceships for all the purplish magenta dice, and I have to spend 3 locations for all the blue. So they're not cheap. And then there's ways to get the black ones too by spending stars, etc. And what'll happen is you'll get half of those dice to use in your in your pool. And the rest go to the supplies. So you kind of get them for a little bonus at least. But either way, they're expensive to get. And then you would roll you'd roll those things before you decide to cut them up, so you get them to use right away. So it's kind of, it's not the end of the world. You just have to wait a long time to make it worth your while and then roll them and get them back. And that's kind of his unique power here. Okay, so because that is it, that is the last part of the turn. I am now finished, and now you go to the next round. You start with the adversary phase, and you just keep doing that until you either win or lose. Now, how do I win? I win by accomplishing all of those different things here, and then that will allow for a win of the game. I lose. In this case, there's a lot of different ways you lose because I think there's 4 or 5 different adversaries in the base game here. I don't know if there's an expansion or not. I don't think so. But 5, and you lose if he colonizes a number of colonies equal to twice the level of your society. So that means I have to start leveling up my society. Otherwise, I'll lose if he colonizes twice. All right, which basically means in 6 turns, I've got to be able to accomplish one of these things. Otherwise, I'm in real trouble. So that's it. That's how the game works. And let me tell you what I think of it. So that should give you a good idea of the flow of the game of One Deck Galaxy. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to compare this between One Deck Dungeon and One Deck Galaxy, and I will say this. I think One Deck Galaxy is actually the better game, in my opinion. And I think it's the better game because it stands alone to be more fun in any given one game than One Deck Dungeon. In One Deck Dungeon, I felt like you had to play a lot to progress your character, to be strong enough to be competitive, to beat those challenges. And I had a really tough time, actually. I don't think I ever won that game. Maybe I got close, but I always felt like I was really swimming up a waterfall. Here, the difficulty is no different. It is a very tough game to win. But however, you don't have to grind away several different games in order to beef your person up for that win condition. What you have to do is you have to play more creatively and play more effectively. And in doing that, then what'll happen is you will be able to unlock more text. You'll find better ways to solve the puzzle. You'll use your levels differently, and you can combine the different races with the different types of player powers. Like I had the Zib Zab scientists, right? And those were the 2 that I had combined. But those 2, depends on how you want to combine them. The difficulty can be a lot easier or a lot tougher given the circumstances. So that's one thing. Number 2, there's just a lot more to think about in this game. There are a lot more choices. They are not nearly as obvious. I find myself rolling the dice and pondering what the best route should be for a good couple of minutes before I make a decision. And I think that's fun. That's good. Now, this game seems longer, but it also seems more evocative and more thought-provoking. And the different types of adversaries you can play with, whether they've got the easy side or you can flip it over for the tougher side. There's a lot of game in this little box, that's for sure. And a lot to challenge you, a lot to keep you occupied. The cards are pretty varied. The restrictions are varied. They all just, I will say this, it all definitely seems like the difficulty level is up. It's definitely up. So this is not an easy game. But I also think that as you play it, you will find what makes for good usage of your dice and good strategies versus what doesn't. And things through more plays have definitely become more apparent, to not waste your time. Like, for instance, to avoid that, getting that escalation, just probe the card away before it's too late if you have the dice to do it. And that will keep you from, having things kind of slip out of your control. It also makes sense if you can accomplish a couple of those things on the adversary, pretty quickly, to do that as fast as possible, because that will make it usually a little bit more reasonable to deal with them. And that, at least of the two adversaries I've played. So I like this game. I'm enjoying it so far. I think if you liked One Deck Dungeon, you may or may not like this, depending on what I said. You may be fine with it. I've seen mixed ways where some people love it, some people like One Deck Dungeon better. I think this one's better than One Deck Dungeon, in my opinion, because I don't have to grind to get the experience I need to be more competitive. Here I can try it in different ways. And there is also like this 24 game campaign pad that comes with it that allows you to do all sorts of different things. Although I'm not even remotely tempted to try this at this moment, because I just don't feel like I'm competitive enough. But when you do get there, there's a lot of different combinations you can play to challenge yourself, to try this different. It's a 6-campaign game, and there's 24 different unique campaign sheets. So there's a ton of replayability in that regard. All right, so that's what I think of it. Hopefully this was helpful for you, and maybe you'll want to buy it, maybe you want to pass. That's completely up to you. I don't know. It's not a game I would say is for everybody. It's definitely got a punishing learning curve, not learning curve, but there's a punishing difficulty here, but I see that there's a way around it. I can see that you can win this game and get good at it, and that I'm okay. I'm up for that kind of challenge. So thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. Whatever you decide to do in the future, I hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy, everybody.